You're encountering this message today because that process has already begun in your life. The timing isn't coincidental. Your consciousness has reached a frequency that makes this information not just relevant, but essential. Most people spend decades avoiding this exact moment, but here you are, drawn to these words like iron filings to a magnet. Consider the mathematics of personal evolution. Research from behavioral psychology shows that 94% of people will actively resist the very changes that would liberate them. They'll spend 40 years reinforcing the same limiting patterns, adding layers of complexity to simple problems, building elaborate justifications for why their current reality is the only possible reality. But transformation follows a different algorithm entirely. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare or present a detailed blueprint. It manifests as a systematic dismantling of everything that once felt permanent. Your career suddenly feels hollow. Relationships that provided security now feel suffocating. Goals that once energized you now seem irrelevant. This isn't depression or failure. It's recalibration. What you're experiencing mirrors the phenomenon scientists observe in quantum systems before phase transitions. Everything appears chaotic and unstable, but beneath the surface, a more sophisticated order is emerging. Your life is reorganizing itself around a new center of gravity, one that exists closer to your authentic core than anything you've previously inhabited. The ancient Greeks had a concept called kairos, the supreme moment when conditions align perfectly for transformation. Not chronological time, but the right time, the pregnant moment when possibility becomes inevitability. You're living in your kairos right now, whether you recognize it or not. Think about recent shifts in your internal landscape. Haven't your standards elevated almost involuntarily? Conversations that once satisfied you now feel superficial. Entertainment that once distracted you now feels numbing. Compromises you once accepted now trigger something resembling disgust. This isn't you becoming difficult or judgmental. It's your system upgrading its operating parameters. True metamorphosis never resembles the sanitized versions portrayed in self-help literature. Real change is messy, non-linear, and often indistinguishable from breakdown until you're on the other side of it. It's like watching a building being demolished before construction of something magnificent begins. The interim period looks like destruction, but it's actually preparation. Your transformation is excavating capacities that have been dormant for years. Every time you chose authenticity over approval, you were building psychological muscle. Every time you sat with discomfort instead of medicating it with distraction, you were developing resilience. Every time you questioned conventional wisdom instead of accepting it wholesale, you were strengthening your capacity for independent thought. Now those investments are compound interesting into something revolutionary, genuine sovereignty over your own existence. The most profound shifts happen in your communication patterns first. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't genuinely curious about your perspective. You establish boundaries that feel both foreign and absolutely necessary. You withdraw from dynamics that drain your energy without offering equivalent value. These aren't conscious strategies. They're natural expressions of your evolved state. Here's what researchers in developmental psychology don't tell you. Breakthrough isn't an event. It's a new way of processing reality. Your nervous system starts responding to challenges as opportunities rather than threats. Your decision-making shifts from scarcity-based calculations to abundance-based intuition. Your emotional responses become more measured and intentional. The people in your environment will notice before you fully comprehend what's happening. Some will comment that your energy has changed. Others will feel uncomfortable around your new directness. A few will be magnetized by your increased authenticity. Their reactions will tell you everything about where they are in their own evolutionary process. You're graduating from the exhausting work of managing other people's emotional responses to your growth. The mental bandwidth you once allocated to keeping everyone comfortable is being redirected toward your own expansion. This reallocation of energy creates space for innovations, insights, and connections that were impossible when your attention was fragmented. Now, I'll briefly interrupt to mention something that's typically said at this point. If these concepts are resonating with you, and you sense this conversation should continue evolving, the most effective way to nurture that is through your engagement. It's not merely about metrics, but about creating a signal that meaningful dialogue is taking place here. Because breakthrough fundamentally alters your relationship with uncertainty. Instead of seeking to eliminate ambiguity, you learn to dance with it. Instead of demanding guarantees before taking action, you develop comfort with calculated risks. Instead of waiting for external validation, you cultivate internal authority. This isn't philosophy. It's practical neuroplasticity. Your brain literally rewires itself to default toward curiosity rather than defensiveness, toward possibility rather than limitation, toward expansion rather than contraction. You become someone who thrives in complexity rather than someone who is overwhelmed by it. The most remarkable aspect is how effortless it begins to feel. Decisions that once required extensive analysis become immediately clear. Situations that once triggered anxiety become interesting puzzles to solve. Conflicts that once consumed your energy resolve themselves through your elevated perspective. You're developing what psychologists call metacognitive awareness, the ability to observe your own thinking processes and adjust them in real time. This creates a feedback loop of continuous improvement that accelerates your development beyond what seems mathematically possible. Your breakthrough makes you fundamentally unmanageable by systems that profit from your insecurity. Marketing messages that once influenced you now seem transparent and manipulative. Social pressures that once shaped your choices now feel irrelevant. Authority figures who once intimidated you now appear to be playing roles rather than wielding genuine power. This isn't rebellion or arrogance, it's clarity. You're seeing through the elaborate illusions that keep most people trapped in cycles of artificial scarcity and manufactured desire. Your perception has sharpened to the point where you can distinguish between authentic value and clever packaging. The person you were would have needed extensive justification for making bold choices. The person you're becoming understands that explanation is often a form of self-doubt. Your actions carry their own authority now. Your presence communicates your values without requiring verbal defense. What's emerging through you extends beyond personal improvement. You're becoming a catalyst for others' growth, not through preaching or teaching, but through embodiment. Your comfort with your own depth gives others permission to explore theirs. Your peace with imperfection helps others release their perfectionist paralysis. This ripple effect isn't accidental. It's how evolution propagates through social systems. One person's authentic transformation creates space for others to step into their own authenticity. Your breakthrough becomes a beacon for those ready to navigate their own metamorphosis. The process has been preparing you for years through challenges that seemed random, but were actually precisely calibrated to develop your capacity. Every failure that forced you to rebuild from scratch. Every betrayal that taught you to trust your instincts. Every loss that revealed what truly mattered. All of it was curriculum for this moment. Your breakthrough is teaching you the difference between genuine power and its counterfeits. Real power doesn't need to announce itself or dominate others. It operates through attraction rather than coercion, through inspiration rather than manipulation, through presence rather than performance. You're discovering that the energy you spent trying to control outcomes was actually preventing the outcomes you desired. As you release that grip, synchronicities multiply. Resources appear when needed. Opportunities align with your intentions. Not because you've learned magic, but because you've stopped interfering with natural flow. The uncomfortable truth is that your transformation will require you to disappoint some people. Those who benefited from your smaller version of yourself will resist your expansion. They may label your growth as selfishness or accuse you of changing in ways that threaten their comfort. Their resistance is data about their own limitations, not evidence of your error. Your responsibility isn't to make your evolution palatable for those who prefer the familiar. Your responsibility is to be a clear channel for whatever is emerging through you. And what's emerging is more significant than individual success or personal satisfaction. It's a contribution to the collective elevation of human consciousness. This is why the process often feels simultaneously personal and transpersonal. You're not just upgrading your own existence. You're participating in a larger evolutionary current that transcends individual boundaries. Your breakthrough is both deeply intimate and cosmically relevant. The version of yourself that's emerging doesn't just react to circumstances. It co-creates them. It doesn't just solve problems. It transforms them into opportunities. It doesn't just pass through the world. It enriches the world through its very presence. So, if you're here, if these words are landing with unusual impact, you're recognizing something that's been active within you longer than you realized. This isn't random content you stumbled upon. This is a reflection of a process that has been orchestrating your experience from behind the scenes. Your breakthrough isn't approaching. It's already in motion. It's been here, waiting for you to stop looking for it elsewhere and recognize that the disruption, the restlessness, the sense that everything solid is becoming fluid, that is the transformation itself. The discomfort of outgrowing your current reality. The ambiguity of not having a clear map for what's next. The intoxicating blend of terror and excitement that characterizes your present state. All of it is your metamorphosis happening in real time. You no longer need external permission to trust your internal guidance. You no longer need the entire path illuminated before taking the first step. You no longer need consensus to validate what you know to be true. The version of yourself that's been waiting in the wings has infinite patience, but evolution operates on its own timeline. Your moment is now, not when conditions are perfect, not when you feel completely prepared. Now. Because people who genuinely transform their lives don't wait for ideal circumstances. They create ideal circumstances by finally aligning with what they've always known to be true. And in closing, let me offer a small practice. If you've made it this far and feel something shifting inside, anchor that transformation. Write in the comments, I trust what's emerging. Let this be more than words. Let it be your commitment to the version of yourself that's been waiting to be born.